Summer Game Fest brings a revelation.
And just like the Summer Games Fest, we're having audio issues. Brett, hit the intro.
Hello and welcome to Triangle Square, a PlayStation podcast. This is a special episode where Chris and I will be joining each other tonight to talk about hot off the press Jeff Keighley's Summer Game Fest. Chris, it was a long show, as Jeff's productions tend to be, but are you ready to talk about the deluge of games that you may or may not have wanted to see and discuss what was shown?
Born ready, brother.
All right. Well, I'm glad that they changed your name to Chris because Ready's kind of a weird one. But Chris, what we're going to do, you know what? Quick reminder, if you're new to the show and this is your first time finding us, welcome. We are a podcast, a gaming podcast that looks at the industry through the lens of primarily being PlayStation fans, but we play on other consoles when and where we want to and when there's something that we find interesting, like I've been playing on my little AYN Thor. And Chris continues to pound out Marathon on PC and PS5 as far as I understand it. He just doubles up. So I like to think... I like to think that much like Keighley's message, it's gaming's about bringing everybody together ultimately, even though competition's fun. So, Chris, what I want to do, because this was a dense show, there was a lot shown, and we can. Yes. I definitely want to have a small moment of discussion about the way the show felt, because I think that was an important part of our discussion about the PlayStation State of Play recently. But I think just to kind of change things up, with so much being shown, Chris and I kind of talked about it, and it seems like the best way to go forward is to primarily only discuss games that we have something that we really want to discuss about it. So there will definitely be games that were announced here that we just don't talk about that may have caught your eye and didn't catch ours. If so, hope that the game's awesome. If you look like you enjoyed it, or if it looked like you enjoyed it, I hope that it comes out as you want. But we're going to talk about the things that excite us, and hopefully at least some of what excites us excites you too, and hopefully some of the things that maybe don't quite excite us, we won't be too harsh on. I will say, in looking at it, 99% of the list of what we're talking about is mostly games that I think we actually have real interest in, and not because they just look though there is a game or two that doesn't look particularly great that I thought was interesting to be here. So Chris, let's crack it off. And I don't necessarily want to go in order of how they revealed on the show. But again, stepping back and kind of looking at the show as a whole, I know that you said you watched it while you were at work, sort of. Then you kind of did a refresher, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I, on my side, watched it completely after it was done. I had a bunch of stuff going on after work today. It started right as I was getting off work, so I had to come home and watch it. And I want to front load the conversation about the way that the stream felt, with a very unfortunate side of apparently this is just how the stream is, at least in its video on demand form, no matter how you watch it, which makes me wonder if it was like this in real time. Chris, did you experience multiple times where the stream started to double over with something it already showed, with the audio out of sync, and then eventually it catches up and just completely cuts out a big section of content, and then the audio is back in sync, and no matter how you rewind, there is no way to see the missed content?
Yes, there were those issues.
Brutal.
Yeah.
And there was one stretch of 15 minutes of the audio being out of sync, and I was actively getting angry.
Yeah.
And I know that that's ultimately stupid, but I was like, I am trying to enjoy this, and I'm trying to look at the things. And Chris, I told you I wanted to come to these with a better energy than I did, than I felt like I did with the State of Play, where it was like the end of a long day and I was tired. This was fine. I started this at like 8 o'clock. It was perfectly fine.
Yeah.
But I was actively getting pissed off that I couldn't just watch it. And I was missing chunks of things that were clearly meant to be shown that I couldn't tell you about. I wouldn't be surprised if there's an entire announcement I missed because of the way that this was happening. I don't know. I went so far as to try and find another stream because I was like, maybe that'll be it. But it was worse quality, and as soon as I got to where I decided I'd had enough, it was doing the same shit on this one. So I was like, this is just what happened, and that sucks.
Yeah,
it's the world of tech. It is what it is. This is also why games should never go fully online required, because internet's kind of stupid sometimes. Chris, I want to throw it over to you. You watched it in a kind of a different way, kind of working alongside it. But what was your general vibe of the show and the way that it felt as an experience to watch?
I mean, for the most part, I thought it was fine. Obviously, audio glitches are audio glitches and they suck. But like it was funny because like this is a very like I don't know, it's like Chris bait show. It felt like this whole show was baiting me with games that I would enjoy. So like for me, like I'm watching the show and like 3 announcements in, I'm like, oh, Jeff has finally become king of video games. Like he's finally the president. It's like Sam Houser and Jeff Keighley. They're the presidents. Gabe Newell. There you go. That's the Mount Rushmore. But like it was one of those things where there was points where I'm like, all right, like he did it. He figured it out. No live service games to finish the show. So he learned that from that. I thought it was just a really good show overall. Yeah.
Yeah. I think if I can set aside my frustration with the way it was being presented to me, that was not the results of anything that Jeff did. I think it was also a pretty good show. My one opinion is that this is actually something I kind of need to retroactively give PlayStation a bit more kudos on. By nature of how broad something like Game Fest and of course how kind of conflicted in what it wants to be the actual Game Awards are, it's hard to pace them really well. And I kind of tend to find that for my own taste, most of Jeff Keighley's productions tend to be a little poorly paced. Even with that being said, I did feel that here, but not nearly as bad as usual, which I actually thought was kudos to him because there's normally much bigger stretches of me being like, you probably could have cut this.
I think the way I have always watched these is kind of fortunate for me because I always start watching like 7 minutes behind. That way I can skip anything I don't care about.
So I did do that a few times, but only 2 or 3. I want to go ahead and get out. The parts I skipped were as much as I love Ben Starr, I don't give a fuck about Fortnite.
Yep,
skipped right past it all. I don't care about Virtua Fighter. Skipped right past that. Don't give a shit. You're not going to pull me in now, and that's just not my thing. We talked about it. Fighting games are not usually my bang, but I'm super glad that Sega's coming back to old IP. That's cool. I don't need to see it. And I think the last one that I did it for, I'm trying to think. There was one more. I think it was the Street Fighter 6 stuff. I think it was the same thing because I don't give a fuck about Street Fighter. Not because I think it's a bad game. It's not for me, and I already know that.
Yeah, I think I'm actually with you on all of those, but I also skipped one of the games that I was excited to see. And from the commentary I've heard, I am very glad that I skipped the trailer.
Ooh, we'll get to talking about that in a bit because I want to see if it's even on my list at all. I know that there's a couple of things I'm going to want to talk about that I know you are just not going to have interest in because we've been friends long enough and I know what we have. And let me say this. One of the games, I think it looks cool insofar as they've shown it, but even insofar as they've shown it, it's very difficult to know what it is. And the only reason you have any vibe to go off of is because of the guy's previous work. So with that said, I kind of want to go ahead and crack into what was actually shown because overall, tech issues aside, I thought this was a surprisingly good showcase. And I think he still did a pretty good job of weaving small moments that could help bang, 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 bang the pacing up a little bit. Like those little Nintendo cut-ins that had like little, hey, these are Nintendo Switch 2 games. I don't really play my Switch 2 much and it didn't do anything for me there, but from a visual and kind of game-by-game pacing, I thought that was a pretty good way to keep the flow going. So I like that quite a bit. But let's start off with what is probably one of the coolest opening things I've seen in a while at a game announcement, which I guess I should say Wolverine was that too. Wolverine was fucking sick opening for the PlayStation Showcase. So, but as soon as it started, it was obvious to me that it was Code Veronica. And I guess actually I should say they dropped code and decided to just call it Resident Evil Veronica. But it was so obvious. My wife was like, ooh, what's this? And I was like, well, that's a Capcom ass door if I've ever seen a Capcom ass door. And I said, and that's a Resident Evil ass door if I've ever seen a Resident Evil ass door. And then I was like, oh yeah, this is Code Veronica. But I was kind of doing that thing where I was waiting with bated breath because I was like, I'm a little worried that if I say it, They're going to be like Resident Evil Revelations 3.
Yeah. I was so I have two things. So first of all, I was leaning towards Resident Evil Requiem DLC. I was like, oh, okay, that's what they're doing.
I thought so for a split second
until it was
something
obvious.
Just told me. Yeah.
Once it started flashing the letters, I was like, oh, this is a new game. That's how I knew. Do you want to know what my initial thought of what this was? Because in hindsight, it's so ridiculous. I was like, oh, they're making a new Arkham game.
Because of this, you know what? The scene of the city from afar.
Yeah, that big tower.
Dude, for a
I was like, this is an Arkham game.
Same thing. I said, I know this isn't a Batman game, but I just had like a trauma flash of like,
yeah,
where's my new Batman?
Exactly.
Ironically, I got the new Batman. I just haven't fucking played it yet. I got my new Arkham game. It's just Lego based.
Yeah, it took legitimately 4 seconds for me to realize that was wrong. But the moment it started, I was like, oh, cool, Batman.
Dude, if they started with the new Arkham reveal, that would have been equally fucking cool. I'm not even like
insane. That would have. I love Resident Evil. That would have been cooler.
Honestly, same. If it was like Rocksteady, we pulled back all the original developers of Arkham Asylum, that would be a crazy moment. That'd be really cool.
The trailer, it's just a Vista trailer, and then it just ends with someone saying Terry, and then that's it. It cuts.
Oh, dude, I actually truly want a Batman Beyond game. I think there's no reason to not do it. It's fucking crazy. Sick. Yeah, dude, I think this looks great. It's clearly a Capcom game. Just like I go to Capcom are such an interesting developer, and that's going to be kind of a story throughout this. Capcom are on fire in this, dude. They move.
Those guys move. It's crazy.
Like, dude, their development pipeline. I was talking with Velvet Thunder today about Pragmata, and he was talking about how he hoped that it would get a sequel. And I have a feeling it will, because I started looking at it and I was like, man, I think this game was like really cheap to make, and it was really small team, and it may have took 6-7 years to make. But I compared it to Wolverine, not because I'm saying Wolverine's a bad game, but think about what you're doing. And I also compared it to First Light. That's even a better example of something that's already out. First Light is like a 15-ish hour game from everything that I understand, even though of course it will have ways for you to do more within it. And it looks like Pragmata is somewhere in that 12 to 15 range, depending on what you want to do and how deep you want to dig into it. And I think Pragmata is a good looking game, and I think it definitely does what it's trying to do well. And I looked into it. Its budget is $85 million, which is fantastic. The core team of people, like the core team, not accounting for any of the what do you call that? Contract workers, like, some people who are just pulled in to do various things. 30 people, and almost all entirely new people to Capcom that Capcom specifically put in that role to shape them into being better developers to lead the future of Capcom games, because they've noticed that their talent is starting to age up and they're trying to be proactive. Super cool initiative. I think it's great. Mm-hmm. But what that tells me, Pragmata has done well, and it seems like it's going to continue to do even better. And then you start looking at that and extrapolating it out. If you look at a comparable game from like 007 looks awesome, and I'm sure it's going to do well, but it's got licensing fees attached to it, and even then the core team of people was around 150. That is a huge difference, and that's also why that game had about a $250 million budget. So you can kind of directly extrapolate the core team size to the budget size and feel like, okay, how often is this really what Capcom does? And I started to do a little digging, and I think a big reason why Capcom can afford to go, fuck it, we're going to bring Okami back, and fuck it, we're going to make a new Onimusha, is because they know how to make AAA style games with much smaller team sizes than usual, and at a fairly fast clip rate. Like, they're putting games out pretty consistently, even though they have multiple teams. So yeah, dude, Veronica coming out, it's like they have a Resident Evil game for every year, and they're all good.
Do. Yeah. Here's my question. I don't know if this will hit, this comparison will land for you, but maybe I'll understand. Do you think that Capcom represents Deadpool 1, or does it represent Logan?
Ooh.
Someone has to be Deadpool 1 and someone has to be Logan. And I don't know who's Logan, but like, I feel like Capcom can't be both.
Maybe. I don't know, man. I feel like maybe it's more of a Logan. Part of me, I think part of what saved
Just
Capcom,
quickly, I forget that
crazy.
it's not just the two of us having this conversation. What I'm trying to say is Deadpool 1 proved that small, quick games could work. Logan proved it again enough that everyone's willing to do it.
Yeah.
Not everyone, but they're more willing to do it. Disney's putting Punisher shows on Disney Plus, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I get the comparison. It's part of why I think you've seen this shift towards people being more comfortable with not immediately having to slap teen on a movie or a game. You know what I mean? You don't have to do PG-13 or teen for the game version. So yeah, I get where you're coming from on it. And I think that makes a lot of sense.
We have an audience.
And part
I forgot
of me,
about that for a second.
Yeah, for sure. I think part of me thinks that they are kind of both, but I think they're a bit more of a Logan because I think what they are is Deadpool 1 that turned into Logan. And the reason I say that is because I think Capcom were at kind of a low point towards the end of the PS3 era where they kind of had good sales but terrible reputation, which I think is pretty similar to where Marvel has been recently, where their reputation hasn't necessarily been high, even though their movies have still mostly been making pretty good money.
They're PlayStation.
Yeah, so when you look at what's going on there, I feel like Capcom started with like Resident Evil 7 and kind of just kept going, and they realized that if you can make a game that does well and builds out well, but you can do so kind of nimbly and with a smaller team and you can iterate quicker, I feel like you can pull out a big thing. And then they just kind of kept going with Resident Evil 2 remake. And even if you want to consider Resident Evil 3 remake a bit of a low point in their recent Resident Evil reign, I still think it's actually a good game. It's just the quality bar of the things ahead of it were so high that it felt like a weird misstep, even though it's a better game than plenty of other things that released the same year that it came out.
Did you play that one?
Yeah.
I know you played 2. Oh, yeah, you did. Nice. Good games.
Yeah. Actually, so 3 is the original 3 was my favorite Resident Evil game for a long time. I love 3. I think it's the best of the original 3 because it was just them being like, fuck it, we got to make this game quick. It was the Majora's Mask of Resident Evil. It was like, let's take the basic idea of what we did with 2, right? And for Majora's Mask, it was like, let's take Ocarina of Time. We're not going to worry about making this game look better. It basically looks the exact same. And it's built on the same idea, but we're going to fuck around with the mechanics and just have a blast and do something that the series hasn't seen. OG Nemesis fucking rips. I love that game. I don't think the remake is nearly as good as 2 remake.
No.
But that's okay.
I mean,
nor do I think
remake
that
isn't as good as 2 remake.
That's probably true, but I haven't played it yet, so I have to hold that opinion. With that said, Chris, there's a few other things in here. We're not going to talk about all of them. I actually don't have much of an opinion to talk about the DLC or whatever you want to call it, the expansion for Monster Hunter Wilds. But again, it goes to show that they are just firing, because I already know that expansion is going to be like Iceborne was for Monster Hunter World. And that was basically a new game built on the same engine. And so to that end, again, Capcom is fucking on it. And I just got to give kudos to them, because I feel like they have the flexibility to do whatever they want to. And there's an audience for everything they want to do, and they seem to know how to go, this is the people who will buy this, and so if we make it for this much money, we're bare minimum safe, and we might get lucky and it'll pop off.
Yeah, it's kind of nuts thinking about it, and I don't even mean this in a shit on Xbox kind of way, because I think at the time I might have made the same decision, but it's fascinating to watch like Bethesda kind of be on a downturn and Capcom being on such an upswing, when you'd think, like, given the talk in the industry around the time, like Xbox probably could have chosen one or the other when they were trying to spend $7 billion, and they went with Bethesda because of obviously Fallout, Elder Scrolls, that's big. But if you look at where Capcom is now, not to say they would still be there had they gone under any banner of anyone, Sony, Nintendo, Amazon, Microsoft. But it's interesting to think if like they had made a different decision at that time, or even Sony with Bungie, right? Double that and double and give it to the next one. You know, like it's just interesting to think about like that time period where it was like, oh, Capcom's kind of fucking up, and now they're so much higher up that it's like maybe they should buy Sony.
Yeah, it's really, I think part of what was able to save Capcom is an ability to look at their own internal teams and go, what can we do well with what we have? And I think that they're lucky in that they've been around long enough that they have a wealth of IP, and they're not afraid to make new ones either. I think Pragmata is such a cool new IP to just kind of come out at a time when people aren't really doing things like that. And yeah, 85 million does mean that it was a safe. They tried to minimize the risk, but it's a cool game at that price point. And it's exactly what I've been talking about. I want to see more people do that. I think in the PlayStation thing, I said that Wolverine looked like it was lower budget. And in a way, Wolverine is lower budget than Spider-Man was, but not but like 15 million. So it's not a lot. And that's crazy because even though Wolverine looks awesome, if that game is really not open world, I struggle to understand how that game took almost the same amount of money to make a Spider-Man. I'm not behind the scenes looking at the game, and we haven't played it yet. It might become very obvious when we are playing it. But right now, it feels like, whoa, this feels like this should have been like a $250 million game, which is still high, but that's budget in comparison to
marathon
320.
money, baby.
Yeah, so that's crazy, but what a cool way to open the show. I thought that was insane. But you said the first three announcements got you. So what was the second announcement that kind of had you going?
Oh, shit. What was it in order? It was... because it was Resident Evil. Mm-hmm. What was the next one? Because it was the first three where I was like, oh, shit. I don't remember what it was in order. That's messing me up now. You may want to cut some of this research time, I guess.
Now I'm kind of curious.
Oh, it was Alien Isolation, right? Yeah.
Alien Isolation 2. That's correct.
Yeah. I just thought that looked cool. I like Alien Isolation 1. I got to go back to it. I've always wanted to. But I thought it looked pretty great.
Yeah. And I think before that, was before that the intermission for Cuphead?
No, I think that was after.
It was afterwards. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, with Alien Isolation 2 looks as interesting as it can.
Right.
I still haven't played the first one. So my own personal hype level for it is not non-existent. It's just low because I was kind of hoping that we would see something that they did with another game later in the show. I was kind of hoping that alongside this, they'd be like, hey, we've also remastered Alien Isolation. But I guess it did get a PS4 release, correct? So I should at least be able to play the PS4 release.
Yes.
I'll take that. I'll play that around as my October game. That'd be cool. Nice little horror game. So we'll see, because I think the game looks interesting, and I actually was like, how do you take this idea and take it to a place that includes outdoors? And I'm like, this is kind of interesting. For a second, when I saw 20th Century Fox, I was like, is it Predator?
That would have been sick.
I actually think a Predator game would be pretty sick right now, but that's okay.
Are we at a point where we could get a Alien versus Predator Isolation?
Yeah, maybe. Alien versus Predator Isolation Badlands.
Yes.
Yeah, let's go. All right. So let's go ahead and round your three off. I mean, I want you to talk if you have anything else you want to say about Alien Isolation, but no, I think the way it was shown, it's a little hard to
CGI trailer.
Exactly. Yeah.
It had them vibes, you know?
It had them vibes.
No, I mean, the next one was Gen Alpha, which I thought looked cool premise-wise. I didn't, full well, I haven't played Shadow of the Colossus.
So Gen Atlas, that's what I was about to say.
Gen Alpha, Jesus. So like, I just thought it looked neat. I don't know what it was, but it was one of those things where I'm like, oh, now Jeff's calling out like another influential person who's showing a trailer at his show. That was one of those like, goddamn, all right, cool.
Yeah, he's pulling out all the stops and he's reaching out and having all the cool shows of long historically respected game makers, even if, like he said here, that he hasn't put a game out in 10 years. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's actually a little bit longer than 10 years, so it's kind of interesting to see. Gen Atlas is what I was talking about when I was saying that. I think it looks cool. I think it looks like, again, kind of like you said, in as much as you can draw a premise from the trailer, I think the premise looks interesting, and I think the world design looks cool. And I think the thing for me is I'm sold on this because I know the type of games that Ueda makes, and I have liked all three of them, even though two of them are pretty similar and one of them is quite a bit different. Shadow of the Colossus is a much different game than like Eco or The Last Guardian. Eco and The Last Guardian have more in common than Shadow of the Colossus does. They're quite similar. Even though they have some of their own ideas at play. So I am kind of curious here. Is this going to feel like any of those games in terms of core premise and gameplay. Ico and The Last Guardian, both, like, again, if you just kind of pull out and look really high up, it's like you and a companion moving through like a castle-like structure, and a story is unfolding between the bond that this is creating between the two people. And Shadow of the Colossus is a whole different thing. So I'm kind of curious if he's going to try and touch on similar themes again, or if this is going to be a completely new idea. Given that it's been 10 years, I'm kind of hoping that it's the latter. I kind of want to see something way different, and I just want to see what he does, because for him to be such an influential creator, it's kind of interesting that he's only put out 3 games in like 27 years.
Yeah, it's impressive. Even if those games are not games that resonate with me, it's like you're clearly, very influential. He's kind of like Andre 3000 in that way. It's like he doesn't have to release very much, and then every once in a while, and every time it's still all right. People love it, and then you can release an album of you playing the flute, and people will defend it because you're Andre 3000,
Yeah. I do hope the game is good. I still do. Like, I kind of understand, in knowing what you like to play, why Eco or The Last Guardian may not be your cup of tea. But I am very surprised that you just haven't seemed to be able to click with Shadow of the Colossus.
Yeah.
It's like a generational game. It's so good.
I can say that I've never given it a full college try. But I've also never been interested enough to give it a full college try.
Dude, it's
but honestly, you've played 200-hour recommend. You spent like 300 hours on games I've recommended you, so maybe I should just play the fucking game.
That's a good point, actually. Yeah, that's a really good point, actually. And also, I want to throw out there, Wanted, fucking fire. I love that game. Somebody the other day was talking about a new game that does look really cool, where you're like an assassin, or you're basically becoming an assassin, and you're trying to kill all the people from like a cult that did you wrong. And every level is like a puzzle game where, like, as you shoot, as long as you make contact with one of your targets, you get to pause the bullet in midair and redirect it, and you got to keep going. And basically, per level, you get 1 bullet, and you have to try and figure out a way to line up all the shots and whip around the map and go through everything like a puzzle game, so that you can kill everybody with 1 shot, just redirecting it. And they're like, it's kind of like the Wanted thing, and I've never seen that mechanic in a game before. I'm like, bro, there's a Wanted game. The mechanic is in the game, and it's good. Mm-hmm. Like, it's fucking awesome, actually. So, yeah, I would love to see, how like bullet time became a thing for everything? I would love to see the Wanted curve mechanic become a thing in almost every third-person shooter.
So
Why
good.
The fuck not?
It's so good, dude.
I'm legitimately blown away that it wasn't in Max Payne 3.
I know. It's
of
so
all
funny
of the ways to evolve bullet time, it seems obvious.
Perfect curving bullets. Yeah, I don't know.
Speaking of, go ahead.
That game's funny because I feel like anytime I say that game is good, people are like, a movie game? I'm like, yeah.
It rips, dude. It's so, and like,
but it's,
I have to say, like, don't get me wrong, it's not a 10 out of 10.
No, it's probably a 6. But
it's like a 6 or a 7, but it fucking rips. It's like one of the most fun 7s I've ever played.
Bad games need love too, and this one deserves it.
I think it's a good example of maybe the idea that sometimes bad. I don't even want to say bad, because I really don't think it's a bad.
It's not
game.
bad. It's not bad.
But if you wanted to, I think you can look at sometimes mid to bad games have great ideas.
Well, I think it depends on how you go into a game, right? Because there's somebody out there who thinks Lord of the Ring Gollum is one of the best games they've ever played, because they got baked as shit. They were hanging out with their friends and just laughing at the game, but they finished it because they were having fun. And that's okay too.
That is okay. But yeah, I definitely want to see where this game goes. I'm so glad that we're finally getting to see it, because I was a little worried that it would completely follow the Last Guardian thing. And actually, at this point, since its initial announcement of being in development to now, it's been as long as the Last Guardian's initial announcement to its official release, if I'm not mistaken. If not, it's very close. That also just goes to show you how much longer games seem to be taking in general. But I'm gonna go ahead and pass it over to you. What's the next game outside of Gen Atlas? I know that one was kind of from you, but I had a little bit more to say about that. What kind of stroked you? Is it time for us to talk about Strangers in Heaven?
Can we talk about that game?
Can we?
Why did they do that?
Dude, I'm not going to lie. As I was watching it, I was starting to believe I was in a fever dream.
Yeah, I couldn't fucking believe it.
To the point where, like, when it said Snoop Dogg, I was like, it didn't just say Snoop Dogg. And then my wife was on the couch and she goes,
that I knew.
And she goes, I can't even remember the name, something Kelly, something Kelly, I don't know what it was, and I was like, and she was like, why are they in this? And I was like, who the fuck's that? And then it's like Tupac, and I was like, okay. What? First of all, RGG are fucking crazy, and in a way I respect that. What I am struggling with here is how I feel about the Tupac inclusion.
I'm of a lot of minds about it, because like there's a big part of me that's like, this sucks and it's disrespectful. There's another part of me that's like, why?
Like, what are you doing with it?
Well, that, but also like, why is it disrespectful?
Oh yeah, sure. Well,
like,
okay,
I know in my gut, but I also kind of feel like what if you were doing an NWA game?
Yeah.
Like, could you not put Eazy-E in there and like render him? So it's like, I don't even want to defend it, because
I think the problem, this isn't a Tupac game.
Weird. Well, that's exactly, yeah. Again, like, I'm trying to think of like imagine if he was like in a cutscene of Max Payne 3, right? He's someone you're protecting. It's in the time period, right? Like, okay, I don't know. Like, part of me is like, you should be able to do stuff like this, but I think this is just so out of pocket that it's like there's no reason to do this.
So I think you're touching on the thing that kind of made me question it, because I went kind of through the same thing. I was like, is this disrespectful? Is this gross? And then I started being like, well, everybody like flips out when real historical people are in other video games. And the only difference between that and Tupac is time. When you put like Mark Twain in a video game, people aren't like, hey, hold on, that's disrespectful, bro. Mark Twain's dead. He couldn't approve the use of his likeness.
Yeah.
Nobody gives a shit. They're just like, oh, cool. A real person is in this game. And so, again, I had to start thinking through what is truly the only difference between now and then is time. Because I'm sure that someone did something where Mark Twain was a character in a fictional work, just using him as an example. He may not be the thing, but somewhere in existence, somebody who someone respected had died was like, oh, come on, you shouldn't be using that person's likeness in a game. They couldn't have, or in a book or in a play, they couldn't approve that. But that feels like that's kind of antithetical to what storytelling is. We are kind of used to telling stories that include people who are no longer around.
I think I know the problem, though. And you saying it, said it, and it's kind of solidified it to me, because I could be wrong when I watch a YouTube video about Stranger in Heaven. I'll find out differently than this. But like, I feel like this might be rubbing people the wrong way, because as far as I can tell, Tupac is not playing Tupac. So
sure.
it's like, so I think that's the issue, right?
Yeah.
No shit. But my point is like, in Leonardo da Vinci in Assassin's Creed is Leonardo da Vinci. He's an exaggerated version of Leonardo da Vinci.
But he is still ultimately Leonardo da Vinci. Yeah, that's right. Here, it's literally just somebody who is, for all intents and purposes, Tupac in name and look, but not in any sense should he be in this world.
That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is like, because that would be fine, I think.
Actually, I think it does depend on whether his name in the game is Tupac.
Is that they got Tupac's likeness so that the likeness of Tupac could be playing a character in the world that Tupac cannot do. And I think that's the thing, is like, in my head, you know, I don't speak for Tupac. I'm not a middle-aged man who's not related to him. But I guess I am. I was trying to make a joke and I forgot the word white, which kind of ruined the whole thing.
Is this about what Blake put in there, which is apparently a WB person owns the rights to his estate?
Right. He runs the estate. So
that's fucking crazy. I didn't actually, because that was my thing, is I was like, well, I remember when they did the Tupac, hologram or whatever you want to call it, that like they worked with his mom and got her blessing, if I remember correctly. So you could look at that and go, well, that could have been considered exploitation of a dead person for money, which is arguably what this is. But the difference there is that I feel like they did it as about as respectful as you could possibly do it. Like,
but he was playing Tupac.
Yeah,
in a performance
he was literally
with his
giving exactly, yeah. And so it's kind of like, okay, or even like an example of like Rogue One, where they have Grand Moff Tarkin being played by like a CG version of Peter Cushing, but like they apparently like talked to the family and stuff. Or be like, how would you feel about us doing this? And everybody
it's like that movie.
We appreciate you asking us.
There's a movie coming out. I'm sure Blake will put it in the comments. Yeah, the Val Kilmer movie. And it's like, I feel like that's weird. I don't know. But like the daughter's okay with it, whatever. I'm going to watch that movie. I need to see what that's like. But yeah, I just feel like in this one, like to me, it comes off super weird because it's the impression I'm getting is that he's not going to be playing like, I'm Tupac Shakur, you know?
Now, if he is, does that change it to you?
Yeah, I don't think it's I think it's obviously they have to portray him in a good way, but I don't think it's as offensive to use him there if he is Tupac.
He's just Tupac in whatever world they've created, right?
Sure, yeah. Well, yeah. I don't know. But I it's like you saying it, the Assassin's Creed example is a great example, or Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is a great example. You're playing
even if they're fictionalized.
Two of the characters that you interact with a lot are like extremely real important people. Not even just real people, like they start a war in real life against each other. It's crazy. And but I don't think that's inherently disrespectful. I think part of it is like a lot of people alive have feelings about Tupac and certain feelings that like I don't have for King Sigismund, or Leonardo da Vinci. But I think if you honor him, sure. I don't know. It's a very complicated thing. I think they've stepped on a beehive they did not need to step on. Why isn't this Kendrick Lamar? They're both tiny men. Like I don't understand why. Like just put him in there. Like he's a real alive person. This felt like And then part of me was like, well, Snoop Dogg's involved and they were friends. And there is a lot, like if you know about Tupac, he was an actor. Like that whole persona, the band's an actor. So like to me, it feels like there's a crazy world where a Tupac alive right now is a video game actor. Like that you could see a world where that happened. But he was shot in 1996, so it didn't. So I feel like I don't know. I feel like it's weird. If the game is you go get quests from Tupac Shakur of California or wherever the hell he lived, fine. I think I'm more willing to see that out. If it's like Tupac is playing, a gangster in the Yakuza, I'm like, I don't know about that one, Chief.
But what if he's Tupac, but just as Tupac, but he happened to go to Japan to become a Yakuza member?
I think if you're using
I'm trying to
Tupac's
find the line.
Likeness,
you know what I mean?
I just think if you're using a dead person's likeness to do a performance of, I don't know how to explain this. I don't know how to say it properly, but it's like the next Star Wars movie has an AI Harrison Ford, or not Harrison Ford. He's alive. Jesus Christ. Carrie Fisher, right?
Yeah.
If they had done that, I think that's fucked up. I don't know, because she can't actually give an acting performance. So you're basically like marionette puppeting a dead person just to profit off their name, which you could be doing in the same way. But I think it's different when you're using Tupac's likeness to portray Tupac. But I feel like Tupac portraying, the character in the new Martin Scorsese movie, enabled by CGI and AI is fucked up. And I think this is kind of the same thing. I hope that makes sense.
I kind of get what you mean, but I also feel like we've already seen that with in the Rise of Skywalker or whatever the fuck that movie was called for whatever reason. She passed during that, so they took stuff from that she had filmed for previous movies that they just hadn't used, and some of it that they had used, and just repurposed it in order to have her in the movie so they could close the saga out. Because her character wasn't dead, even though they had an opportunity to kill her in The Last Jedi and just fucking turned her into woman Jesus instead. So it is what it is. But Grand Moff Tarkin is another example of, like I said, it's a character who they used his likeness for a character that already existed, but the man himself was dead. So it's exactly what you're talking about with Carrie Fisher, but they've already done it. um,
Yeah, but I don't know.
so I don't know.
There's a lot of weird lines. He played that character before, and like it wasn't like a performance. Like they're selling this as he's a main character of this game, which means somebody is wearing his skin for the duration of the game. I think that's what's disrespectful. I personally don't have a problem with really either of these, like super deep down in my gut, but I feel like at least in the example you're giving of, first of all, I don't think the Carrie Fisher example is even close to this, but I think the one that is
I think it's a soft one, but the Grand Moff Tarkin is exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's exactly like I don't know. So yeah, I feel like that's the line is like, at least with that guy, he played that character before, and again, he's not giving this sweeping performance. Isn't all he does is turn around and give a line that he gave in the old movie?
No, he has like real talking lines, and it's new. He's like the antagonist of the movie. I mean, like it is a major role with completely new roles. Somebody had to do mocap for him, and then they had to go back in and recreate.
That is kind of insane. Like,
yeah. But I mean, like I said, they did it about as respectfully as you could, because it's like they asked as many people as they could, and kind of, but
yeah, I'm not inherently,
yeah,
it's
kind of like you said, you're not even inherently against this, but it's just,
yeah. I just, I don't know. I want to know how it is. It's like I said, you stepped on a rake for no reason. Him and Kendrick Lamar are the same size. Just shave Kendrick's head if that's what you want to do. Even I feel like I know Kendrick Lamar's what the hell? I feel like it's a ridiculous example, but I feel like it's almost better if it was Kendrick Lamar as Tupac. You know what I mean? Is better than Tupac as Tupac. That's crazy to me.
Yeah, so it's his likeness more than anything. Because otherwise, it's like when they do like a Michael Jackson's dead, but they just did a Michael movie, even though apparently that was one of his relatives playing Michael. I mean, but the point being is nobody's mad that what's his name from Until Dawn and plenty of other things that played Rami Malek, is that his name?
Rami Malek.
Who played Freddie Mercury. Nobody's mad that somebody else played somebody else. That's normal. Right. We're used to that. Yeah.
Yeah. But again, Freddie Mercury did not play, or Rami Malek did not play Freddie Mercury playing
someone else.
Yeah. And that's the difference. That's what I'm talking about. That's the difference.
Yeah. It's weird for sure. All right, Chris. I want to see where you land on CrossFire.
It looked fucking incredible, and then they announced the name and I stopped caring.
I sort of agree. I was like, I see what they're doing, because I saw that the character's name was Cross, like in the thing. But I was like, oh no, I think this is actively not the best name, but that doesn't mean I won't play the game or enjoy it. Unfortunately, it's hard to name things. I know that because I'm in a band that has a bad name. I am aware of that, and I chose it, so it's okay. Or I helped choose it, so yeah. I get the problem. I think the game looks surprisingly good. And looks fantastic. I'm not even kidding you. I was so jaded at the beginning of him saying people who were ex Naughty Dog in this.
I was about to say this.
And I said it's going to be a fucking live service game. And then they're like, it's story player. I'm like, oh, look at me being an asshole. This is single player as fuck.
So you actually went a different way, but this is the first time I've ever seen a game announced this way, which was from people who worked at Naughty Dog. And then I watched a trailer and went, oh, those guys fucking worked at Naughty Dog.
yeah, that's true. Yeah.
It's the only time that's ever happened to me.
Yeah. The game looks awesome. I am curious. This is one of those things where when you're up on a stage and you're doing what you can to try and quickly distill something down, I kind of struggled to see what he meant when he talked about adaptive cover or whatever it was called.
She was like of course, ducking and going around saw it. Up and down. Yeah.
But what kind of made me is he said she automatically adjusts to the terrain around her. Then he goes, it's a skill that you have to master. And I'm like, I think that he's right, but I think that the way he had to shorthand that, I have a hard time imagining how do you master something that
is done automatically. Yeah,
automatically happens.
I can tell
which
you,
leads me to believe
it's called
that
a skill tree.
Which leads me to believe that there's more to the mechanic, and he just couldn't find a better way to sum it up that would describe it, because I am curious to see how context sensitivity around what you're doing can play into it. Because this might sound crazy, but what I kind of like the idea of is more games starting to take maybe a slightly lighter approach of what Death Stranding brings to the table, where Death Stranding goes, hey, you know how you always walk in video games? We're going to make the walking part of the mechanics. Like, it's not just you press forward on the analog stick and you move. You do, but there's more to it. And I was kind of like, wouldn't it be interesting if adaptive cover was like, this is just an example. I'm not saying this is the best example, but it's an example of how it can be tied into it. It's like, oh, terrain changes heights. We have triggers on these modern controllers that are pressure sensitive. And so what if you use the actuators to go, the more you squeeze it, the more more you squeeze your right trigger down, she lowers her right shoulder to make sure she's within cover. I'm not saying that's a great way to do it, but it's an example of how you might be able to work actual balancing of multiple things into this in a way that could be cool.
My problem, and with all due respect, what you just said kind of exemplifies exactly what I was thinking of. There is no way to do this that is not automatic, that does not turn me off from playing the game. So I don't want to do what you're talking about, and I don't want to do the only other option that I can think of, which is you have to hit button prompts. And that sounds fucking terrible, because yours sounds cool on paper, but that game looks like a 20-hour to 30-hour game, and I don't want to be trying to make sure that my triggers are in the right spots to get around cover and then fail a stealth mission because I hit it just too hard. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that's an engaging thing. I do want
to challenge you in the sense of, I'm not saying mine's a 1-to-1, but is there not enough of a comparison between what I just said and what Death Stranding does, even in the way that you actually do it, to go, Death Stranding is doing the same thing. So what I want to challenge you to is, if Kojima's name wasn't attached to Death Stranding and you just saw that game and someone was like, while you're walking, you have to hold L2 and R2 in these specific ways, would you be like, ugh? And I think a lot of people naturally were. And then a lot of people played the game and go, oh, this is actually fucking awesome. And I'm not saying what I suggested would be awesome, but I guess what I'm trying to put out there is, what are the chances that someone might be able to do something interesting like that, that's not just with walking, that might make you go, I would have never thought this would be fun, but here it is.
I think they're comparable at a base level, but I think if you think about it deeper than the base level of it, it's apples and oranges. CrossFire is a sci-fi third-person shooter. Death Stranding has third-person shooting, but I bought Death Stranding to deliver packages. I didn't buy Death Stranding to headshot soldiers and move through stealth sections. That's my point. It's like, if I was playing, like, I don't know, a game where it was like, you have to if I was playing an Earthworm Jim game, that was exactly what you described. That's cool. That's what I went in for. I don't want to go into a game that looks to me like a streamlined MGS5. And I don't want to fuck with the cover in that way, blow my mission, and then have to start again because, with all due respect to the PlayStation controllers, who knows how good that shit is. So, like, how precise are we even going to be? Dude, like, there are buttons on my DualSense, my Elite controller or Edge, whatever it is, that don't work. I don't want a mechanic in a game that is what I would think is going to be a twitchy, stealth third-person shooter to have, like, what you described, or like what I described, which was button prompts. Yeah, I don't even really want to have to wave up and down on the thing. I hope that this is one of those things where she gets better. To me, it's like, I hope it's one of those things where it's like Oblivion, right? The more you're in cover and the more you play stealth, the better she gets at it.
It's like an RPG mechanic that levels up.
Yeah. Even if it's...
But at the same time, then it just feels... That feels a little more performative, I guess, in the sense that it's trying to make you think that it's doing something new, but it's really not. It's just like, look at this new cool visual thing we did.
But yeah, all we're going to do is make it easier. It's a cover system, but anything is cover.
I do like the idea of trying to look at the third-person shooter genre, and the third-person cover shooter became like such a big genre in the PS3. but it's not really moved forward much since like late PS3 era. Like people were already iterating and iterating and iterating. So I do like the idea of someone trying to be like, how do you revolutionize it? And a part of me, like, look, if all it is what we saw, it's still cool. And I think that this game looks great. It would be really interesting if this game actually does, as we see more and more, like we see that it's actually trying to do something to revolutionize it a bit more. We'll just have to wait and see. Game looks awesome.
Definitely. It does look awesome.
Yeah. What else do you have for me?
I don't know. Let's see. What else was in the show? I mean, we can talk about the game that I skipped.
Oh, yeah. What was the one you skipped?
Because it sounds like you have a lot to say about it. And I skipped through the Blood of the Dawnwalker trailer. And again,
I kind of thought you would.
From what I understand, pretty glad that I did do that.
Yeah. So when you say from what I understand, did you get told things that you were trying to avoid because you don't want to be spoiled? Like, what'd you skip it for?
I just skipped it because I saw it and I went, I don't want to see this anymore.
You already know you want the game, right?
Yeah.
The game looks fucking awesome, by the way. It looks so good. It looks incredible.
I was watching, LSM stream it, and I guess they showed the ending in the trailer and told you that it was. And I know that there's a mechanic, like a time mechanic in this game, but like hearing that they showed that, I was like, I'm glad I didn't see it, even if it's like not real.
Yeah,
I'm glad.
The way I took it, I'll say this: the way I took it is that what they showed was not the end of this game, but kind of the start of the end point they want the series to eventually arrive at.
I'm glad I didn't see that. I'm glad I didn't see that. I know that I'll be playing the third game when I'm 55 years old, but I'm glad I didn't see it.
Yeah, the game looks really cool, though. I did think it was interesting that they put so much, like even the way Jeff announced it and then what that cutscene was, and then they immediately were back. I was like, why did you bother saying that it was this and this? I mean, we could talk about it if you want to, because it sounds like you already know what it kind of is getting at. But
no,
the basic,
all I heard was, why did they show the ending in the trailer? That is the only thing I heard discussed about it.
Then all I'll say is for people who did look, I was like, the way that they went about announcing this game or talking about this game, the trailer had for like 30 seconds, then immediately betrayed the way that Jeff set it up. And I was like, that's weird, but the rest of the game looks fucking awesome, so I don't really care. It just, I wouldn't say it's a misstep, but I did think it was weird. But whenever the developer came on afterwards, and he said that verbatim, he said, you saw at the beginning kind of where this is eventually going to be going, which makes me think that, for lack of a better way to say it, it'd be like if Uncharted 1 started with the train scene, or it'd be like if Uncharted 1 started with Drake waking up on the beach in Uncharted 4 in Madagascar.
No, it's just he's playing Crash Bandicoot in his attic with his wife. That's how the first game starts.
But no, like really, the drama behind it did kind of feel like, if what you're telling me is true, it's like I see Drake wake up on the Madagascar beach and he looks bruised and beaten and battered in the dark, and it's clearly a dramatic moment, and then it goes and then it's them on the fucking ship at the beginning of Uncharted 1, and you'd be like, what the fuck? And then you don't see anything about that for 4 more games.
Yeah, I don't know. That it seems like a crazy choice. But that's what I'm curious about, because I do know this game has some sort of time mechanic where like you won't be able to do everything on your first run. So I'm wondering if that's what you're playing through
the eras.
That's what I'm wondering if this is. If it's like, this is the first ending you'll get when you haven't done everything. That's what I'm hoping.
That'd be kind of cool.
But again, regardless, I'm very glad I skipped it.
Yeah, that's cool. I think the game looks awesome, and I'll tell you, I went from knowing what it was, and you actually mentioned it in passing last episode when we were talking about the state of play and how crazy September's getting, and it's fucking is. Unfortunately,
I genuinely might pre-order this relatively soon, just so that it doesn't get lost in the shuffle.
I think it might be the only way for any of these games to kind of work, because they just rely on people to choose one now.
Yeah.
And hope that enough people in each camp choose one and flock, and then a few people buy them all, whether they play them all or not. I mean, ultimately what you want as a company is just, you want everyone to play them, but you really just want everyone to buy them.
It's going to be crazy, because then when they announce Clockwork Revolution for August, it's going to be kind of like, which do I play?
That's fucking crazy, dude. God, I hope that's not the case. Like, I kind of think a few things need to scooch off into December and January.
How about we do something in November, you pussies?
Yeah, I agree there. But even if you kind of want to go, we can't do November. October exists, you cowards. Like December
we gotta run
exists.
from Call of Duty.
Yeah,
What are we talking about?
Fucking maybe.
I mean, that's when Gears of War E-Day is coming out to PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series S and X. But
I have one that's quick, but I want to talk about all the same. I think that the announcement was cool, given what it is. I wish we'd have seen more. I thought it was really strange that despite being rumored for quite a long time at this point, like 3 or 4 years, all we got was like a title card announcement for The Last Ronin.
it's because it switched developers.
And that's what I'm glad you said that. I didn't look it up because as soon as I finished washing, we came to record. But I was like, I don't remember this being a Platinum Games developed game.
Yeah,
I thought it was originally being developed.
I think it was Saber or Virtuos, one of those two. I'll look it up.
I think you're right. At the very least, I thought it was through the GmbH or whatever company that started it, but now it's happening as a result through there. I will say this. Now that you've confirmed that it was a developer switch, which I thought it was, I am so much more excited for this game with it coming from Platinum. That's fucking
so
sick.
much better.
Yeah. So that's pretty fucking awesome. And I continue to live in a world where I'm so glad Nintendo didn't try to buy Platinum. Because thankfully Nintendo doesn't really buy developers very often. It's very rare for them to do. They just partner with developers they like and just keep going. That's what they've been doing with Mercury Steam for the 2D Metroid games. It's what they've been doing with the Bayonetta series. That they bought the Bayonetta series, but they just were like, yeah, Platinum, keep making them. We don't need to buy you. And they've done that in a weird way. They bought the Atlas Chain series and haven't done shit with it, but they didn't buy Platinum, who made the game. So fucking who knows? But yeah, who was it before?
They do that though. It was THQ Nordic and Black Forest Games.
That's what I thought. It was THQ Nordic owned by GmbH.
Sure.
That's what I thought.
It was out of State of Play.
That's also what I thought. I was like, we saw this, right?
Yeah, we did.
I was like, and it wasn't even like, I know it was rumored, but then it was also officially announced. Either way, looks sick. Can't wait to see more about it. Platinum Games also, interestingly, they're ex-Capcom. Platinum Games also seemingly knows how to get a game out quick. Like when they are actually working on a game, their games release within a 3 or 4 year period usually, which I think is good given the release. You know, we're hearing about God of War Faye seemingly being worked on, sensibly so, since God of War 2018 ended. So we're talking like 7-year development, which is fine because it seems like at least they planned in a way where they could have 3 total games released in that 7-year span. That's cool, but it's still just like, oh, okay, I would love it if we could get like more Capcom games that are being developed in like 3 to 4 years, or at least examples like Pragmata, where if it's going to take 7 years, at least make sure it's cheap. And the reason it took so long is because you were willing to give them development time to iterate on ideas.
You know what's crazy? Could you imagine being a big publisher who had a company under your first party banner that specialized in remaking games from the past?
Yep.
And they could have probably done that pretty efficiently. And then could you imagine announcing a remake of a series of games like a week after you or before you close that studio? But then could you imagine that news is coming out that you are remaking another series of your popular old IPs? And then could you imagine if that studio, right, if they wanted to stretch their creative wings, maybe the IP that you are now rumored to be remaking could have gotten a third game after they remade the first 2 because that company had the knowledge, right? And the thing about that is that could have probably happened pretty fast at like a Capcom level pace. But nobody has that now. You know, it's crazy to me. They should just maybe get one of those teams.
You know what? This is a good time for us to scooch over and quickly talk about a game that I know is in your don't care to talk about list, but the only thing I want to say about it, what the fuck happened that Ubisoft went from we're not doing remakes to all we're fucking doing is remakes.
Yeah.
And then one of the 3 remakes that they announced, they just fucking cancel. The one game I wanted to actually be remade and that needed it. I don't needed it strong, but the one that needed it more than Rayman Legends and fucking Assassin's Creed Black Flag was Sands of Time. And that's the one you couldn't figure the fuck out. The one that could have stood the most to benefit from it was the one that you were like, no, I can't do that one. But you know that 10-year-old pirate game?
Yes.
Let's do that one. And I know it's 13 years old, but what the fuck, dude? Like I don't know, man. I know that I know that I bought into them. I played the Days Gone remastered and the Horizon Zero Dawn remastered and whatever the fuck you want Until Dawn got fucking remade. I mean, I know that these things are happening and that Sony fucking let the cork loose. But what is Ubisoft doing? I'm so glad for people who love Assassin's Creed Black Flag and they want to play it this way. This feels as dumb as The Last of Us Part 1. And I like The Last of Us Part 1. I bought it and I beat it. I will still continue to say that was a stupid remake. There was no need for it other than, I guess, because they had a PC initiative that they are no longer even doing. So they could have just... I don't
know. I don't think this is necessarily pointless. But I wish they did a remake of one of the good Assassin's Creed games.
Well, also, again, why not Assassin's Creed 1?
That's what I'm saying,
everyone says, hey, good game, but it's kind of clunky and it needs remade more than any of the other ones.
I don't understand it. Well, go in order so that I'll die before you get to this one because this game sucks.
Apparently, I don't know how true this is, but apparently Rayman Origins is also getting remade in the Legends bundle, and it's just there, kind of like whenever Ubisoft did the South Park game, and if you bought it, it also included a remastered version of the PS3, the Stick of Truth. But for a long time, that was the only fucking way to get the remastered Stick of Truth. I guess it's like that, but why would that not be included in the marketing? I don't know, quite weird. But at least in that case, you're getting to play both. Because I also thought, when I first thought it was just Legends, I was like, how stupid. Why are you remaking the sequel to Origins? That's like making Beyond Good and Evil 2 and then remaking Beyond Good and Evil 2 before remaking Beyond Good and Evil, which I wouldn't put it past them to do. But it's just interesting. Man, remakes are just the thing right now. I want to scooch over to something that I won't say that I have anything bad to say about. There's actually one cool thing I have to say about it, but then I have a personal opinion about the series. I don't think this speaks anything to you at all. Guild Wars 3 got announced here.
Actually, it does. I'm actually kind of hyped for this.
Guild Wars has always been the series that tries to be like, we're going to reinvent MMOs for whatever's happening right now. We're going to try and be whatever the main ones aren't.
It's an extraction shooter.
How fucking funny would it be if it was like a spell singing extraction shooter MMO? The first thing I noticed, look, we don't have a lot to go off of, truly. It's a CGI trailer with not a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
If we're being honest, there's art style and the fact that it's an MMO. I think it's super cool that they're doing what I'm surprised a few other MMOs have done, and they're launching on console. Though I did think it was funny that it's PS5 only, not Xbox. They said, fuck those 20 million people. We don't care. But I think that's cool, and I may give this game a try. But one of the things that kind of gets me is I have a hard time being excited about this because kind of like you're talking about, we've said this about a few things recently, and I don't know, we don't always agree on what that is, but I think Guild Wars may actually be the stalwart example of Guild Wars 2 came out, and I wanted to be excited about it because I adored Guild Wars 1. I played it with so many of my friends. I have hundreds of hours in Guild Wars 1. I think it was a super cool game that was very different than anything else around at the time, both mechanically, art style-wise, the way it leaned into things. 2 came out, and it left every bit of unique gameplay that the first game had behind. It left every bit of art style the first game had behind. And it felt more so than maybe any other game I have ever seen like a sequel in name only, other than maybe Final Fantasy. But I think the weird thing is that they've never approached Guild Wars as saying, hey, these aren't meant to be connected. They're all individual stories and we're just using a name to connect a series of ideas. But even with that said, Final Fantasy 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 all have more in common with Final Fantasy 1 than Guild Wars 2 has in common with Guild Wars 1. And so I remember I played like 50 hours of Guild Wars 2. And my wife was like, Guild Wars, that name sounds familiar. I was like, yeah, when you were in college, I was trying to play it. And I got some friends to buy it. and we just couldn't get on with it. I hope this game does well. I hope that it can manage to do that. I don't know if I'm in a place to be playing an MMO, realistically speaking. I may give it a try, but man, I would fucking love for Guild Wars 1 to be like remastered and released on console. I'd play the fuck out of that. I love that game. It was a little darker and edgier, as you would expect from a 2000s MMO. My character that I played was a necromancer, and they had like, you know, some of the emotes were like you could like headbang and stuff in the game. It had like the art style was very, I won't say photoreal, but it was stylized towards trying to look a little more aggressive, which at the time when you have World of Warcraft as what you're competing with, World of Warcraft, I'm not saying WoW looks bad, but it looks quite cartoony in comparison to Guild Wars 1.
Sure.
So yeah, Guild Wars 2 is like fully colorful and very artsy. It looked much more like a World of Warcraft style game than the first one. It was just weird. But hey, maybe this one will be everything we want it to be. What's next on your list, man? What you want to talk about?
I mean, honestly, I don't necessarily feel super compelled about much more. That Star Wars game looked fucking sick.
Hold on. Okay,
not Galactic Racer though. That looks
Zero Company.
Zero Company.
Yeah,
Galactic
dude.
Racer
As soon as it came
cool
on,
the whole time they've been announced it.
Yeah, it looks so fucking good. And I love that they like focused on pod racing on this one.
Yeah,
and they even had my boy Sebulba. I was like, oh, they got him. They have him here.
Yeah.
Also, this sounds crazy to say, and then we could talk about Zero Company, but to speak on Galactic Racer, the more they show of it, the more I get excited about it. I don't know how to describe this other than something about the way they present the game, and definitely this trailer where like ramming your enemies into stuff and watching them break up and seeing the camera pull aside and show the destruction gave me big MotorStorm vibes. And I have been chasing a MotorStorm style game since they stopped making MotorStorm games. And I thought Onrush was going to be it. And Onrush is its own little unique game that just didn't click with me. Not a bad game, but it wasn't MotorStorm. And weirdly enough, this looks like sci-fi MotorStorm, and I'm fucking stoked for that. It looks so good. I can't wait to play this. But yeah, Star Wars Zero Company came up, and the first thing I did was, interesting that it's EA, because the Star Wars license is broad now. So it's cool to see EA backing this. And then I was like, boy, this is a Chris-ass game if I ever saw one.
Yeah, it is.
So go ahead and take it away, man. I'm not the strategy guy normally. What is it about this game that's kind of lighting your fires?
It's giving me XCOM vibes, which I'm a big XCOM guy. I love those games. There's not like the most to say. It's really just like this is like my type of game, and I do like how they have the progression and the leveling up and all that kind of stuff. I'm very curious, like what this is going to be about, like what the story is going to be. I will say it. I was hit with profound disappointment at the end of that trailer, though. It was so profound how upset I was when I saw fucking Anakin Skywalker show up. It's like, why? Yeah. Why did you do this?
It goes to what I always say, that Star Wars does not know how to make a product. Definitely the games have been leaning for quite a while now on making sure that somehow, some way, Darth Vader shows up. And even though it's technically Anakin Skywalker, it technically is Darth Vader. So
sure,
I'm going to call this the same bullshit. I think it goes to show how much people rely on the fact that you want that cultural touchstone moment. But my problem here is fucking Star Wars is the cultural touchstone.
That's what I was going to say.
The IP of the game is that. Why do you need the Skywalkers? Dude, Star Wars is so obsessed with the Skywalkers, and specifically fucking Darth Vader and Anakin, and I guess to some degree Luke, but it is the Skywalkers as a whole. And I'm not saying I don't get it, but it seems crazy to start a franchise off and say in a galaxy far, far away and imply that there's so much shit going on in this world. And yet here we are 50 years later, and we still struggle. I'm not saying we haven't done it at all, but we struggle to move away from the Skywalkers.
You're not even doing it like the Skywalker children. It was the same fucking people in the last movie. Whatever, that is unimportant. I don't know. I don't understand. It's like you said, like that would be like being like J.K. Rowling being like, "Oh well, Hogwarts Legacy. You have to make sure that at the end of the game,
Harry
James
Potter
Potter
shows
is
up."
born." Like, fuck off. Like that game works because it has nothing to do with it. It's about Hogwarts, not about Harry Potter. You know, and it's like.
Yeah, why is Anakin Skywalker showing up? That's like Tupac showing up in my RGG game.
Yes,
It's disrespectful.
You know, it tells me that like the gameplay is going to be cool, and I will buy this game on day one unless it's like something catastrophic happens to it. But why can't you tell me something more interesting than like what are you even going to be telling me? Like the prequels with Anakin are full stories. I know what happens. So what are you're telling me some middle section where Anakin's not interesting, or even worse, he's still whiny? I don't want any of that.
I am with you on all of that.
Star Wars Eclipse is the only goddamn game that has balls, and it's probably never going to come out.
Well, I guess if they ever manage to do the remake of KOTOR, the most exciting thing about KOTOR is that it was like, let's just go like thousands of years before Skywalker's existed.
Yeah,
and let's just look at what the fucking world was. What does the Galactic Empire look like? What does the Republic look like? You know,
and it's cool as fuck. It's one of the cooler Star Wars stories.
Yeah, that one's a bummer. I just don't get
slop. Why? I'm not even like I know I sound like a Star Wars hater, but come on.
For anyone who is excited to see Anakin, I am so happy for you. But as an individual, I just want to see Star Wars, the IP holders, show the confidence to step away from them. And if that means that the way I perceive that is just wrong, and you think that it's because of Star Wars originating with the Skywalkers, it always has to keep them close at heart, I'm not saying you're wrong. I think that that's valid. It's just, I think that it's an IP that has so much more room that it seems weird to not let it go ahead and grow outside of that. Definitely when so much time has passed. But, you know, IP's a hell of a thing. You know, I mean,
it just seems to me as an outsider looking into this franchise that all of the best Star Wars shit is relatively tangential to what these movies are doing. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
I think it depends. I mean, because clearly people who love like the original trilogy and everything, I get why the Skywalkers are important. I mean, they are definitely the motivating factor of everything about the series that people initially came to love. And I'm not saying everything that they've done has been bad. Some of the stuff they've done in bringing Vader back has been cool. I thought seeing Vader for a moment in Rogue One was really cool because it also was like, we're trying to anchor this in as this happened right, you know, this was right before the beginning of the first movie. So,
and that was kind of the point I was about to say is like, it's not that you can't tell stories from that era because like I was going to say, Rogue One is the second best Star Wars movie.
Yeah, great
and
movie.
The best scene is when Darth Vader shows up, but it's not about the Skywalkers really. They are very important cogs in that machine. That whole thing is set off by Leia, if I'm not mistaken, but it's not about them.
Yeah, it's weird, but you know, for everybody who is excited about that, that's cool.
Sure.
I just think for me, I'm always going to be more excited when they have something that doesn't clearly have a need for a Skywalker to be there, but yet you shoehorn one in. And in this way, it was literally shoehorned in. I'd actually feel a little different about it if you just played the game and it turns out he was just almost like a Cloud being in Final Fantasy Tactics. It doesn't make sense for Cloud to be in Final Fantasy Tactics, but he's like a side character that you have to go out of your way and do some weird shit to find, and then you can use him. And he's clearly like a fish out of water kind of thing, but it works. And if that's all it was in this game is like, hey, if you do some special shit, you can find Anakin and he can be on your team. I guess it's the marketing always having to use it as a sting feels like they don't think anybody will like Star Wars without a Skywalker involved.
Well, and that's kind of the thing, right? It's not even like, I'm going to sound like a hypocrite here, maybe a little bit, but like, it's not even that he's in the game, because I would expect that you could unlock Darth Vader, you could unlock Darth Maul, that you could unlock Rey, that you could unlock Palpatine, that you can do all of these things. But what I was disappointed of is it was a game that showed me like it's not about them, and then you end it with just like jangling keys in front of my face, and like that's fine. And I'm sure that got a lot of people, but like I'm the like 1 in a million millennial men who could not give a shit about that guy. So like it doesn't translate for me. I know I'm in the minority.
The trailer is not inherently meant to just please me and you.
Well, to be clear, no Star Wars trailer is meant to please me. Nobody's shooting for me, but like that's what was disappointing. Is it was appealing to me, and it's still appealing to me, but that was one of those things that was like I'm still connected to the part of it that like it's not that I don't like, but I don't care as much about. And I feel I would rather see something different. And it looked like it was something different until you stuck them in there.
Yeah, for sure. I want to quickly talk RuneScape Dragon Wilds, because I know I mentioned it a little bit on the State of Play, and it was shown very briefly there, which is a little surprising that they got a much better showing here as opposed for you to actually understand what it was. I thought that was quite good. Ultimately, it's still just like a little show of how it looks as like a survival game, and showing you quick, like, here's resource gathering, here's fighting as a group, here's building. All of it looks good. I'm excited. I think it's going to do exactly what I want it to do. I know that there's some people who think it's not RuneScape enough to be RuneScape, and I think that that's just because no game is RuneScape classic. It's such a weird game that I never expected this to feel like RuneScape Classic, or even like RuneScape 3 to a degree, but definitely old school RuneScape, which is kind of what people go through. It doesn't feel like that in terms of gameplay, but it feels like it to me in terms of like lore and building the world out and approaching the fact that you have all these skills and what you do with them. So I think it looks pretty good. Another one that I know that you don't have much to say on, and I don't have a lot to say on, but I think it's just cool that it exists, is that they're doing that Among Us story on Guard. And the reason I like this is because I think it's an interesting idea to move a game away from having a game series that's known for being multiplayer and being like, can we find a way to do something fun with this that doesn't rely on multiplayer? And I know it's not quite the same thing because Sonic's always usually been single player, but this kind of reminded me of the murder of Sonic the Hedgehog, that little point and click like crime solving game of like takes place on a train with like the Sonic team. I think that game is such an interesting use of an IP that doesn't have to go there. And I think this is a much more... This feels so close to what Among Us already is, and you're just making a detective game out of that. And I think that that's a cool idea. I don't know for sure if I'll play it, but I could see myself on a whim being like, fuck it, let's see what it is. Because I like Among Us, but I've had my fun with its particular brand of gameplay. Like I know what it is. I'm glad that I had played it. I think it's cool that it exists. I understand why people keep playing it, but I don't really want to play it anymore. But I might play something in the world of it if it has something compelling for me to do. And this seems like it might be it.
I have nothing to say about that.
Yeah, I kind of figured. Now, Chris.
Yeah, Brett.
I know you didn't have it in your list of, you gave me your list of, we kind of agreed on things that we didn't feel the need to talk about much. Where are we standing on Wolf Among Us 2? Because I thought you're a fellow Wolf Among Us fan. Mm-hmm. Now we're getting a remaster so people can play it a little easier. That's awesome. I like to hear that. I might even fucking platinum it again. It's a great game. I really enjoy it. Why is 2 not something you want to talk about? Is it just because you already know you're sold on it and you're just not that worried about it? Or is there some hesitation about it coming back and kind of taking so long to be shown to us again? Do you have some reservations about it?
Well, I guess like in the way I can minimize the game the least, I don't know what you can tell me, what I can see beyond knowing that the story is good and I'm interested in the game, about what basically amounts to a more complicated sequel to a book I really like, and I don't mean that as a dig. I like Telltale games. I know they have more gameplay, but like I'm not coming to that game because they have new mechanics for how Bigby moves. Coming to that game to see the story.
Sure, agreed.
So yeah, I'm hyped for Wolf Among Us 2. I don't have anything to say about it because it looks like a Telltale game, which is a book with some gameplay, and I'm into it. Like,
yeah. My hope for it is, and I think that this is quite, I think this is like being positive toward it while also being realistic about what the past from Telltale games was. Dispatch gave me a lot of confidence that games like this, because Dispatch is very much a Telltale-like game. And what Dispatch showed me is that these games can be very stable with an engine that doesn't run like dog shit. And as much as I love the way The Wolf Among Us plays, and I even like the way that it looks, it's very unstable. It runs at a rough frame rate, and the engine, and this was something that happened across all the games, and thankfully Wolf Among Us is actually one of the ones that doesn't have as many problems, but later games like the Batman game, that engine had crazy stuff going on where like the stuff would just start clipping through each other and like flipping through, and like there was a scene where like I was playing and Batman's cape was just fucking everywhere, and then part of the world disappeared. And the Batman games from Telltale were great, and I love them. They were technological messes, but like you said, what am I there for? I'm there for the story. And thankfully, the story still worked, much like I was here to see the games. And even though the fucking technological presentation of this showcase was pissing me off, I stayed for the games. That's what happens there. But what I would like to see, since we're back, and it's Telltale in name, sort of, I want to see them finally come out with a game that is technologically competent day one. And that's what Dispatch was. And I know it can be done at not a crazy budget. And I don't expect that The Wolf Among Us 2 has a crazy budget, nor do I think it should.
Hopefully not. That's what fucked them the first time. I wonder, given that they're remastering one of their old games, I know it probably will never happen because of the licenses. Where's the Walking Dead full collection remastered and, you know, brought back up to speed?
Well, so I actually thought that they did that late PS4.
They did, but where's the PS5? We've fixed this game. It doesn't run like dog water. We've made the graphics a little bit better. Okay, let me just be frank with what I'm asking. Where is my opportunity to play it again and get the platinum?
Well, you know, I that's fair. I get where you're coming from there. But from a tech side, I didn't play any of the later ones. I only ever played the first Walking Dead game. I didn't play like part 2, and I know they had like spin-off series that they did. Like, did they do like Michonne or something side games? And I mean, I don't have a solid reason as to why I didn't. I just didn't play them. But, you know, technologically speaking, I was going to say, I wonder if we're actually going to see much of an improvement on the Wolf Among Us. And I'm sure we will from like a frame rate and resolution standpoint. But in terms of the other stuff I was talking about, that like the Guardians of the Galaxy Telltale had, and the Batman Telltale had, and even some of the Tales from the Borderlands stuff had, even though that one wasn't too bad. I was surprised whenever I replayed the Wolf Among Us and The Walking Dead on Vita that both of those were like competent ports. Like, they ran at a slightly bad frame rate, but other than that, it's like those games aren't, other than running a little rough, they don't have the same technical problems that the engine pushed onto later. And it seemed like it got worse as the need for the engine to be better kept growing, but they kept just not doing it. I don't know. Part of me thinks that, like, why do you ever really need to go above the way that The Wolf Among Us or The Walking Dead looks? But seemingly they kept trying to push it for art style reasons, and I get it. But yeah, I'm hoping this game is a lot more competent. I'm actually excited to see that this doesn't look decidedly better than The Wolf Among Us in terms of art style. That may sound like I'm digging at the game. I'm not. I think that Wolf Among Us still looks good today. When I played it on Vita, I was like, damn, this game looks good because it's stylized. And I'm totally glad to see that here. We didn't see like crazy updated facial animations. Like, it still kind of looks like the way they animated faces in the first game. And that's perfectly fine because that works for the story it's trying to tell. So that was cool. I guess I'm glad to see it come back. And because the Telltale game formula does work, in my opinion, I want to see this game be a success so that we can maybe start getting a bit more of these. Because I think as little palette refreshers, these are super cool. I do have curiosity. Do you think this game will release as episodes like the first one did? Or do you think that will they follow Dispatch and actually do that? Or will they just be like, hey, since this is our first game back, we're dropping it all at once?
If they do it, I hope that the episodes are done.
What do you mean?
Like, I hope if they're going to do it, we're not like crunching to get the next one ready. I hope it's like, we're done.
Oh, like
we're
what
going
seemingly
weekly.
Dispatch did, where it's like, we're weekly, but we've already made them. The weekly is to change the way you interact with it.
Right. We're a TV show,
Yeah.
and you're consuming it as you should.
Yeah. That checks out. All right. Well, cool. I'm glad that you see that.
So that's it, right? Nothing else happened.
There's a few other games I felt the need to talk about. There's one I want to talk about real quick, and then there's one that you want to talk about real quick, and then I got a couple I want to run through. First one, I almost didn't put this on my list because I didn't really love the way they showed it. Not as much of a complaint. They've shown the game enough times. They showed it originally at, I want to say, Game Awards, so Keighley's done his part for them. But Cold Symmetry's Mortal Shell 2 got a little like sizzle reel trailer to announce the beta here, but it did actually show some shit that I was like, that's fucking sick. Having a shell that has a lute as a weapon to where you could just fucking play music at people, I am fucking all here for that. I am super excited for Mortal Shell 2. I think that regardless of whether you liked Mortal Shell's 1's, how do you say that? Whether you liked the way they executed the concept, I think Mortal Shell's concept of having a Souls-like that doesn't actually have classes that you select and are dedicated to the whole game, but rather has a bunch of classes that you can choose from at any point in time by swapping into shells, or go the hard route of just not using a shell. I think that's super cool and a super unique idea. And I think that they have never actually gotten the flowers they kind of deserved for thinking outside of the box in a really weird way. And so I'm hoping that with Mortal Shell 2, that some of the people that didn't quite land with the implementation in Mortal Shell 1, maybe Mortal Shell 2 will feel a bit better for them, and it'll draw more people to experience this pretty neat idea. Because I think Mortal Shell 1's a great game. I'm not going to say it's like an all-timer, but I think it's a great game. And 2 just gives us more opportunity to do more. Chris.
Oh yeah, brother. Brett.
You saw fit. The only game you added to the list of games to talk about, the only game after what I initially proposed, was Saw. And I was not going to talk about this game because I think that this game looks stupid.
Yeah. So,
and I'm not saying that to mean that someone can't have interest in it. I am both surprised that you might be able to answer this. Has there been a Saw game before this? Because I don't remember if there has.
There's one on PS3.
That was kind of my thought. Is if it happened at all, it happened during the PS3 era, but I just can't remember it.
Yeah, it's a PS3 game. I think the reason I wanted to talk about this game is because this might have gone from one of the most intriguing to one of the most disappointing announcements I've ever seen.
Yeah. So what started with you initially?
Oh shit, Bloober is making a Saw game.
Dude, I saw
Bloober's
that too.
Making a Saw game like this.
But it doesn't seem like they're the primary dev.
Maybe, but again,
their name's on
Bloober doing a Saw game. The Bloober that is capable of Chronos and Silent Hill 2 doing a Saw game would have been something I was there day one for. This doesn't even make sense. So as a Saw game.
It's published by Bloober.
Okay, so they're not making it.
They are not making it.
Well, I thought they were. So bad move, because like I said, that opened. I'm like, oh, cool. And then like even the game that they're making in the Saw license doesn't make any sense.
Dude, I was looking at this and I started thinking, and I like the Saw movies. They get a little ridiculous, like the story. But I watched Saw 10, had a fucking blast. It was really good.
Awesome movie. Yeah.
I even saw what do they call it? Jigsaw. Also liked it. I did not watch, and that's actually, I forgot to watch Spiral. I kept meaning to, but I never got around to it. And I told my wife that I was like, we never saw the Chris Rock one. And I was like, I don't know if this game, because the entire time I was watching this, I was like, this doesn't make sense to the Saw lore at all, in my opinion. And then I was like, I guess I never watched Spiral. So maybe Spiral gave a glimpse of information that the reason that John had this idea was because he found the notebook. So I was like, Spiral definitely did try and pull the spiral symbol to mean something, when the other movies, it's just there as like a set dressing kind of thing. It looks cool. I was like, but the Spiral thing tried to make it like the movie's about the spiral, and I was like, but I never saw it, so I was like, I don't know what the fuck the movie's about. I don't think it did super great.
It was fine. I like I don't mind that movie. But I like all of these movies in like they suck, but they're fun to watch kind of way.
I love the first Saw movie.
The first Saw is like a genuine good movie.
It's
the rest
so
of them are like
good.
Mid, but they're fun because it's gross, you know?
I think Saw, and it's crazy to say this, but it's just true. I feel the way I do about Saw similar to how I do about Fast and Furious. I think the first Fast and Furious movie is fucking awesome.
Tokyo Drift is great.
Yeah, and look, it's kind of similar, but it's like the longer the series went on, the more ridiculous it got. And even though I ultimately liked the ending of the story of that, it's like at some point you're like, I'm just along for the ride.
Yeah,
and it's not like I'm not over here saying this is cinema. Hell yeah, he is, because he knows quality when he sees it, but he also probably knows that Too Fast, Too Furious kind of fucking blows. Saw 2 is much better than Too Fast, Too Furious. I just want to throw that out there. So Saw 2 is pretty good. It's no Saw 1, but it's good.
I just think there's so many better ways to do a Saw game, and making a 3v1 multiplayer game is the worst way you could have made one. Dude, there are so many, like, even if you wanted to do multiplayer,
Dead by Daylight has fucked up horror gaming. I'm just going to throw that out there, and I don't mean that actually sounds a little too mean. Dead by Daylight has made everyone think that the only way you can make a successful horror game is by making it something that people have to do in a co-op setting,
which is ridiculous considering who's publishing this game. Apparently,
insane choice. I would genuinely like a Saw game. I actually think it'd be interesting to play, but everything about this feels weird. And look, I'm not even gonna say this game could actually end up being fun, but it's not the game I would have thought. It's hard to tell from the gameplay we saw. I don't even know what the game is wanting me to do. It seems like your group trying to get out of the things.
Yeah, but it's a 3v1. It's like it doesn't make sense. But why didn't you, if you were going to make a multiplayer game, why didn't you make the darkest friend slop game of all time? You and 4 friends get in a voice chat and you have to escape from jigsaw traps. I would play that game. I'm not going to play this one.
Actually, it would be kind of funny, if it was not, there is no player playing the person who captured you. It's just you and your 4 friends.
Just start a bunch of scenarios and you have to get out or die. Yeah. You know? Whoever gets out wins. I don't know. They have jigsaw traps
I sort of feel like the problem that a Saw game has to contend with is that they run the risk of people viewing them the same way as like the Postal series that kind of got a rap. And then what was that game that came out that was like hyper bloody? And like it was
Hatred.
That's what it's called. I think people might worry that it just ends up feeling like hatred. Like it's just gory and fucked up for the sake of being gory and fucked up. But that's what Saw is at its core. Like, well, I'll say that. Saw at its core is that while trying to masquerade as life lessons. Like,
it's just like they're being non-serious with the license. So if you're going to be non-serious, why didn't you make a Saw Mario Party game? Like, it sounds like a joke. But
Saw Party 2.
But there are multiple instances in the Saw movies where one survives and one dies. There's the one where they get their heads cut off and one of them has to go. There's one where they're cutting parts off each other. Whoever gets out, gets out. Those are Mario Party mini games.
Holy shit.
But I'm right. They're Mario Party video game.
I don't know that it would do well. I don't know that it wouldn't end up with an AO rating, but I would love to see somebody take the balls on to do that.
Dude, a Sario Party game? Are we kidding?
That's fucking nuts, Chris. But I kind of love it. So, yeah, look, I thought it was kind of a surprise, but I don't think it looks particularly good either for my taste. But it is what it is. Chris.
Yeah.
That leaves, if I'm not mistaken, 3 games for me to talk about. And one of them in particular, there's the question of it might matter to you in the long run. Actually, 2 of them maybe. I'll get the first one out of the way. It's probably not your cup of tea. I know you played some of the other ones, but I don't think you ever got into them as much as I did. And my feelings on this are kind of conflicted. They said new Hot Wheels game, and I was like, let's fucking go. Then they started showing an open world, and my wife heard me audibly go, oh no, are they making it an open world? And then I said, I don't know how I feel about that. She goes, that groan tells me that you know how you feel about it. And I was like, that's kind of true. It may not be bad, but I feel like we're running into a risk of this becoming very similar to like Mario Kart, where they added an open world because the feeling is that modern games have to justify their price. But then no one I know has been like, yeah, the open world of Mario Kart is fucking awesome. Everybody's like, yeah, the open world of Mario Kart is empty and doesn't have shit and it's kind of stupid and I wish it wasn't there. And I'm not saying
pack of
someone
ass.
doesn't like it, but it's clearly was just put there to try and be like, we want to make our game $80 and we think that this is and we want to try and make it different somehow. And this is the easiest way we saw how to do it. I like open world racing games sometimes. I don't like Forza and Forza Horizon's take on it, but I like the Need for Speed take on it. So it's not an automatic I won't like it, but I kind of liked that it leaned so heavy into just being an arcade racer down to the point of you had a game board and you're moving through it and you're just doing the races. I like that shit. I'll have to wait and see where this lands at on me, but at least the way it was shown, I didn't even think it looked as good in showing. Like the presentation was good, I guess, but I don't know. This trailer wasn't even as cool as like the first Hot Wheels trailer. That first Hot Wheels Unleashed trailer was fucking banging. It was a cool trailer. So
yeah. I saw this and I was like, oh, Brett's going to be happy. It was like this and Mortal Shell were like one after another. And I'm like, damn.
and unfortunately, I'm conflicted instead of only happy. But I would say I'm ultimately I'm willing to try it because the previous two were so fucking good that as long as that's still here, I can see what they actually bring to the open world, but I hope it's something different, which is going to be a conversation we'll have about another game here in a minute. But before we get to the last game of the show, I think a pretty cool, like this show opened and finished real strong in my opinion. Really cool.
I agree.
The last game I want to talk about before we get to there is Stellar Blade 2 or Stellar Blade Blood Rain being announced here. Sick. I knew it was Stellar Blade almost immediately. It doesn't hurt that unfortunately somebody messaged me and was like, Stellar Blade 2 getting announced but not a date was a little disappointing, but it looked cool. And I was like, oh, I haven't watched it yet. So I knew it was coming. So as soon as it was out, I was like, well, this is definitely the Stellar Blade part. But this looks awesome. While also I'm trying to figure out what they're doing within the world, but I'm cool with it. I'm ready to see what it is. Shift Up have already proven to me that they can know how to make a fun game. My only hope is that since they're doing another one, let's see if this one can have a better story. Not that the first one had a bad story, but let's see if this one can be better. Looks awesome. Can't wait to see more about it. I really fucking still want you to play Stellar Blade and get through it one of these days. Have you even started it at all?
Yeah, I'm like halfway through that game.
I thought you were, but I wanted to make sure I wasn't confusing you with like Saul or someone else. I knew you hadn't beaten it, but I thought I remembered us having the conversation of you getting to one of the points where you go into like the bunker areas and it becomes like a Resident Evil game for a bit.
Yeah, I was swimming around.
Yeah. So I like that stuff, but this looks really cool. But Chris, you started Rebirth, if I'm not mistaken.
I did.
And you loved 7. Remake.
I did.
But you've not finished Rebirth, and now we've got the announce of Revelation, and I got to give them credit. I think the release cadence on these is about right. I think if COVID wouldn't have happened, we would have had all 3 of these games in about a 5-year window. Yeah, maybe 6, but that's still not bad. Even with where we are, we're talking a 7-year window. It's pretty good.
You know, it's funny. They did a lot of great PR for CD Projekt Red.
Yeah,
because they said that, and I didn't believe them, and now I'm like, okay, maybe you're right. Maybe you can do this.
It's funny that you said that because that was what I was thinking you were going at is like maybe the 3 Witcher games is not so crazy. Maybe it's possible.
Yeah, maybe it is.
So I want to talk about this game kind of in earnest. But the first thing I want to land on is, did this even really have much of an impact on you since you've not gone through Rebirth? Like, were you excited for this or were you kind of like putting it out of your mind?
I guess it's good because it sounds like I didn't spoil that this was announced for you. I was wondering if I did because I've downloaded both Remake and Rebirth to my so I can play them.
Thank God that for some reason my phone did not send me the notifications of you downloading stuff this time.
Yeah, it didn't seem to send you another notification that I expected you to be like, what the fuck when you saw it? But yeah, no. So I did it and then I got the notification. I was like, oh, I don't think Brett saw it. I might have spoiled that announcement for him. So I'm glad you didn't see it.
Yeah, no, I think it was a cool and look, nothing against Tigard. I'm still, I feel for the guys, but this feels like the kind of showcase ender.
Yeah, it does. It did. I will say, kind of brutal of Jeff to be like, guys, I learned from Highguard. It's like, those guys don't have jobs, brother. They're unemployed. Like, come on, man. No need for that.
But back to talking Revelation.
Yeah.
I am excited for this. I'm quite happy with the timeline turnaround. Finally getting to see Sid and Vincent in combat was so good because I loved them as characters, and I also loved them as combat characters. And with the new hybrid combat system, I was really curious to see how they both kind of operated. Specifically, Vincent, because he's an interesting character. So good. And actually, Sid looks really cool too with the lance. I was like, this is fucking sick. I like this quite a bit because he's meant to be like the Dragoon, which is like a previous thing in the series, but. Dude, I'm over the moon with those aspects. What I will tell you is after I loved Rebirth, you know that I sing a lot of Rebirth's praises. But one thing that I really feel like is true the more time has passed since I played Rebirth is I think the worst parts, and this doesn't mean they're bad, the worst parts of Rebirth are the endlessly big open world for very little ultimate gain, in my opinion. The game has got 200 hours of content or whatever you want to say, and I don't think it can really justify 70% of that because it's just, again, said with love because I like the Horizon series. But what Final Fantasy VII Rebirth said, hey, let's take Final Fantasy VII, which even the original had a open world, if you want to really call it that, and let's take all of the things that made it unique and let's just make it a Horizon game with Final Fantasy story. And that doesn't mean it was bad, but I really hope that for this game, where the idea is to make the world even bigger in the sense of at least the feeling of you're going to more places, I actually kind of hope they've scaled down. Since you have the high wind here and you can kind of go to places, I hope that each area is like more of like a little hub and you go to it, and while you're in it, you're like, this feels large, but then you're going to move between them via the high wind so that it doesn't seem as exhaustive and blowing up and expanded just for the sake of shoving a bunch of content in. Because I'm going to be honest, Rebirth having the tower that all you had to do is climb to the top of and click a thing and then it did the Ubisoft tower sync was kind of unfortunate because it wasn't like the worst thing ever, but it was just kind of like, I don't know, its sense of exploration didn't quite land with me, and that's why I didn't like doing as much of the side content. But I think that the main story stuff was done excellently. Even if there was a few changes I would have probably done differently, but I was quite happy with the way the story ended. Me and you talked a lot about it, and I was excited to see you get there eventually. Still am. I want to talk to you about it when you get there.
I'm going to be playing it.
My hope for this game is not me being pessimistic. I think I will love this game even if it's more of Rebirth because the core of it will matter. My hope is that they find a way to make the open world more interesting and not just doing what a lot of games have done by just pumping an open world full of stuff to do. Some people really love that. So I don't want to say that that's a blanket bad thing. I think there's too many games that do that, and I think Final Fantasy VII stands more to be a industry leader like it once was and carve out a way in which it can be unique and push the open world genre forward instead of going, hey, we're going to be safe and we're just going to adopt an open world structure that's worked in this other game. Yeah. That's kind of what I want to see.
Yeah, it's funny because I guess I don't have much thoughts about it because I didn't play Rebirth yet. Other than the fact that like everything I saw made me go, I don't know why I didn't play Rebirth yet. So, I mean, I'll definitely be playing it. It looks fantastic. I mean, it looks gorgeous. It looks like a lot of fun. I think I'm right around this part in actual 7 anyway. So maybe time to just finish that off because I'm pretty sure. So the last trophy I have was finding Vincent. So I must be like right where this is in original.
I mean, you find, so I don't want to spoil too much, but much like how, okay, so Sid is in Rebirth and so is Vincent, but you can't play as them. Because
I'm past the opening of Rebirth in the original game.
Yeah.
Because I remember loving that part in the original game. This is so fucking cool.
Yeah, for sure. So it's not a huge deal. Clearly, you know Vincent's there, but you meet Vincent and you find him in Rebirth, but he is kind of like Red 13. He's not part of your party. Like, you can't use him in combat yet. But then in Rebirth, they made it to where you could use Red 13 in combat.
Yeah, which is cool.
And so, and then they did the same thing here. It's like, okay, now you also know about these characters, but they're in this game, but you don't get to use them in combat until the next game, which I think is fine. Ultimately, it'd have been cool to have them in there, but I think it also gives you an obvious win for the next game because you're excited for new combat possibilities with these new characters, and that's exciting. But the bigger thing is how do they approach everything else? There's cool little things. I thought it was nice that they kind of brought an armor system into this game. I thought that was really cool because that's not something like, it's a little more of an RPG than we've seen from the series so far. You kind of had like classic JRPG stuff where it was like accessory slots that can do stuff, but you didn't see it reflect on your character. I thought that was a nice little way to do things. I think the high wind super cool. That gives a lot of ways to kind of let this game be different in a pretty notable way. Because going back to what I said about 7 Rebirth kind of adopting a Horizon-like world, and Horizon in many ways is very Ubisoft inspired too. So it's kind of all of that. But for all of the complaints I have about 15, I don't think 15 has a super interesting open world, but it is more unique. And in ways, 15 kind of used the Regalia as the high wind of that game. Like it was supposed to be your way of moving around the world and going back and forth past that. So I at least say that for all the qualms I have with 15, and again, I like 15. I beat it. I platinumed it. I enjoy the game. I think it's one of the weaker Final Fantasy games. But with that said, I kind of did always appreciate that while I didn't love its take on an open world, I did feel like they were at least trying to be like, what would we do with an open world? Rather than just going, what open worlds do people like? Let's copy it. And that's exactly what Rebirth feels like, which is just a little unfortunate. So I'm hoping that that's something that they can try to find a way in, because this is this sounds like I'm saying something bad, but this is quite literally their last chance to do so. I mean, this is the last piece of 7 content they're going to do. So if they want to feel like they're taking 7 to be an industry leader, which I think Remake, for what Remake was doing, I think Remake was an industry leader in the type of game that Remake was trying to be. And I think Rebirth wasn't. And I think it's because when you're trying to iterate quickly and you're trying to do an open world, when you haven't really done a lot of them as a studio, you kind of, I get the motivation to go, what works? What do people like? Let's take that, adopt it, and then build our game around it so that we can quickly iterate and get part 2 out quickly. But now that you've had that time to do that, I'm hoping with part 3, you can go, what did we learn from that? Now we have some open world experience under our belt. How do we make it our own? How do we do this in a way that feels unique and compelling and not just content for the sake of content for the sake of content, which I do think is most of what Rebirth was. It's also why Rebirth was such a pain in the ass to platinum. And I just didn't feel like doing it. So yeah, Chris, I can't wait for you to play more Rebirth. Revelation looks awesome. I'm so glad to get to kind of see this come to an end, because Rebirth has a lot of interesting story aspects to it, and this is going to carry that forward. So
yeah, I'm hyped up for this. It looks really good. I can't wait to keep playing. Can I throw something in that I'm hyped about that got announced today? I think at a different showcase. Sure. Saber is remastering Hitman 1, 2, and 3. The original Hitman 1, 2, and 3.
Oh shit! Like the PS2 one and Xbox ones. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm hyped for that. They just announced it coming next year.
Also interesting to see IO Interactive still going with Hitman 3 World of Assassination. That Wiz Khalifa thing. I was like, damn boy, they don't know how to stop.
Yeah, can't. It's so fun. It's so cool that they do it, because it's kind of a perfect game for that, because it's a live service game, live service. But you must think like every week, or every time you release this, a bunch of people come back and then a bunch of people leave. You make a bunch of money. You know you're going to make like $1 million this week, and you're not going to make anything else off that game for a while. And then another thing's coming out, and you're making money. It's crazy. It's a great system. Yeah,
it's certainly interesting. I mean, I'll tell you that my own opinions on those things, like this will be my last thing, and we can round the show off after this. But when Dead by Daylight did their 10-year anniversary thing, congratulations to them. This isn't me trying to. No, it's not me trying to shit on them, but my own personal reaction to that was, dude, we're in an era where we celebrate games being around forever, when we used to celebrate that within this same 10-year period, one developer would have made 5 games. They would have made one game roughly every 2 years for the longest time. And now we're at a point where games stay around for so long that there's not as much room to try and pull that off. And now clearly that's wrong if you counteract that with what the industry as a whole is doing. But it's just, I don't know, it's kind of weird to me to be like, man, these games sticking around forever just really changes the way we interact with them. And we're to a point where we think it's like, congrats, you stayed a game for 10 years, which I mean, like every game has done that. I mean, Uncharted 4 turned 10, but we know we don't mean the same thing when we say Dead by Daylight turned 10, because Dead by Daylight's doing something new as a result of its 10th year, because it's never stopped doing something new content wise.
Yeah.
And it was a weird moment for me, because I was like, it is cool. It's nice to see that a game that by all means probably shouldn't have worked on paper, like I don't think it was obviously a win. I think it was a risk, and it worked out for them, and that's awesome. But I was like, it just feels weird, because used to MMOs were around for 10 years and people weren't like, oh my God, look at these games that have been around for 10 years. It was just expected. But I don't know. It's a very weird place to be. But since I am not the games as a service guy, that's just me. You know, that's the reaction.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you there's a certain subset of people who are very upset about a game that's lasted 12 years ending service.
Yeah, which one's 12 years? Destiny?
Yeah, the franchise.
Yeah, but technically Destiny 2 has been what, since 2007, 18? So 8 years?
Yeah, I mean,
still quite a long time.
Yeah.
Sure. But the reason I bring that up is because what I was actually going to say is, in my opinion, it would have been more interesting to see Destiny and then like 3 years of Destiny like we got, and then Destiny 2, which made some changes to the formula that you may or may not have liked, but it was different. And then have like 3 years of that, and then do Destiny 3 and make some more changes to the formula that are big and that feel like a different game to a degree. And in my mind, again, I know I'm a different person, but in my mind, you make Marathon, you let Marathon exist for 3 or so years, you support it, you do cool stuff, and then you go, cool, there's still enough of you that seemingly want this. Marathon 2, we made more changes. We did something big. It makes sense to do that. But I know, that's what I was about to say. I know most people don't seemingly want that.
No, that's
because you know how many people I know were mad that Destiny 2 came out and changed Destiny 1? They were like, why did you fuck up my game?
I don't.
I think that's why I just don't jive with the idea of a game coming out and being out forever. But you can change a lot too, because I think it's fair to look at games like Warframe and to a degree you could point at Destiny, but I don't think Destiny 2 has really made changes that I consider to be big enough that would have constituted a Destiny 3. Like if you looked at it as any other game, you'd be like, this would have been a new catalog release.
Well, maybe
I think
if
Warframe's
they made a
had
Destiny
a few
3,
moments.
they wouldn't have sunset all their content.
Maybe. But yeah, I think it's... clearly, it's just one of those things where I'm looking at it and going, the way I get along with games, I get excited about seeing something different. And then when I want to play that original style, I like going back to the original game and playing that style within that confine. But that's why I don't meld with games as a service, because I still play games as a service like one-off games. Because I'm probably never going to play Arc Raiders again. So you know what Arc Raiders is to me? Season 2 of Arc Raiders, because that's all I played.
Well, but you'll never play Arc Raiders again, because I will never play Arc Raiders again. You would play it if I asked you, but like I feel like you were rarely.
I wouldn't.
Yes, you would play one. There would be one night if I was like, you want to play Arc Raiders, you were free. You'd be like, yeah, sure. I'm not saying it would happen a lot.
But
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but it wouldn't be something that you know what I mean? It wouldn't be something that I'm like, oh, I played it. You know,
you're not gonna like
Destiny 2
prestige again or whatever. But
Destiny 2 is like one of the only games that really happened for me on, and it was because we did that platinum grind. I would not have come back to Destiny 2 and played another 260 hours or whatever the fuck we played if it wasn't because I was like, I'm getting this goddamn platinum I should have already had.
Yeah, you're gonna be with me there on June 9th?
I am being asked by my clan to come back.
I downloaded it. I'm gonna play the content.
Because my clan is still going. And they were like, clan leader. They're like, clan leader, will you come back with us for our final showdown? And I was like, fuck, I kind of feel bad if I don't.
You should. I don't know how long it's gonna last, but I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try and see how much of the content I can do without mentioning a word of it to Sean.
That's interesting. I did say
I
never finished the game. Like, the final shape, I never did. So I was like, there is a huge story section I'm just missing. But I also didn't do Beyond Light.
Yeah, I don't know the story of Destiny.
There was one before. The last one that I played through was when me and you were playing, which was the Witch Queen.
Yeah, which was good.
And what's funny is the dude who asked me, or actually the few people who asked me, I was like, I can't remember. I was like, I didn't play. I didn't play the final shape, and then he was like, yeah, I think the last time you played was Witch Queen. He's right on the fucking money. That was exactly the last time I played. And I was like, damn, my clan's on point. Yeah. That clan's been going since the beginning of Destiny 2. I'm kind of proud that it's still around.
Congratulations,
the Discord server's popping still.
That's sick. It's funny. I sent Sean a picture earlier, and I was like, "Oh yeah, oops, sorry. Yeah, I sent him a picture, and it was like I downloaded Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and Remake, and then right in the corner it's DEST,
that little edge of Destiny.
Yeah." And I'm like waiting for him to notice. He never noticed. I'm like, "You're a fucking idiot, bro."
He's like, I'm back in.
I didn't do it.
Is he still playing?
He was playing yesterday.
Insane. You know what, though? I'm happy for you, Sean. I'm happy for everyone who's super excited about their 8th continued year into Destiny 2. I'm so happy for you.
Go play Marathon.
Well, Chris, if you remember, Bungie were supposed to be shut down by your logic. Bungie should have just never even been able to make Marathon because they lied and fucked up and betrayed Sony, and they should have just...
Are we pretending I haven't been vindicated? That I wasn't exactly correct on the money that Pete Parsons was full of shit?
You were, yeah, but look, what was important is you said that Bungie should have just been shut down as a result of what they were. And if they had been, you would have never gotten your favorite game this year.
That's true. I'm happy about it. I was right. I was dead on the money that Pete Parsons bullshitted Sony into money.
Chris, thank you for joining me, sir. We'll talk again when we come back together for the Xbox game show. I'm actually kind of curious to see what Microsoft does.
Do you have any predictions? We didn't do any. Give me a couple.
I don't have big predictions, but I did actually say, and it's funny that you say that because I started thinking through what we might see, and I was struggling because I'll give Microsoft this. Sony likes to space their things out. Mm-hmm. Like I noticed that Sony's pretty happy with like announcing one big game at the beginning of the year, one big game in the middle of the year, one big game in the third quarter, and then a big game towards the end. Like that, they kind of like to spread theirs out, which is cool. I think it works for them. Microsoft kind of go all the fuck in on the one showcase, and what makes that complicated is that there's so many options that it's really hard to figure out what they could pull out of their ass because they also own so many studios now.
Let me ask a couple questions then. Gears of War E-Day, exclusive or PlayStation?
PlayStation.
Okay.
And my reasoning for that is we just got Grounded 2 on PS5. So,
do we get any more ports of games to PlayStation?
I would still say that right now, I don't think that they've been upfront on every single game about saying day and date it'll be on PlayStation. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw it on there, but I also wouldn't be surprised if they announce it but don't mention PlayStation, but down the road they say PlayStation is one of the platforms.
Let me clarify what I mean. State of Decay 2, ReCore, Gears 2,
okay,
Halo
yeah, you mean like classic Xbox One catalog.
Yes.
Oh, maybe. I think it's going to be a matter of how much cachet does Microsoft think that those games actually have, because I think Microsoft's done it to the games that they think have the biggest chance of still selling on PlayStation, and that's their biggest IP. They might take a risk with something like State of Decay that could find an audience on PlayStation. I'm sure they'd be happy with 1 million sales on PlayStation for that game. It's probably that's probably good for them. But I don't think that that's as important to them as, say, getting Gears of War Reloaded on PlayStation.
Sure. But
or Forza Horizon.
Fair though, I feel like of any game they could port, unless it was like the MCC, which they're clearly not going to do. State of Decay seems like the most optimal one, because you have to think that State of Decay 3 is probably an exclusive, given how just base level how expensive that game must be at this point. So it'll be on PlayStation, in my opinion. So it seems like a perfect time.
You mean?
I mean not exclusive, because they spent so much time and money on it. They got to recoup their money somehow. So it would be a perfect time to be like, oh, by the way, here's a State of Decay 3 trailer. Put the platforms on there. State of Decay 2 out now on PlayStation.
I think that would work too, because in that way, it's kind of like what they're doing with The Wolf Among Us 2. They're going, look, many of you have started gaming since this was even a thing. You've never even played it. You never had the opportunity to. You started gaming on PS4. Mm-hmm. So here's your opportunity. We're going to bring this game back, and hopefully you'll get excited for Wolf Among Us 2. That's exactly what I would do here. And that's what I was going to say. Is part of why I kind of hinted at. I think that's the most obvious game to move over because it's the most obvious one with a continuation. The reason Gears of War Reloaded hit is because Gears of War E-Day.
It would be one I would be surprised about given the release delays. Fable Anniversary.
I would love to see that, but I think that they don't. There's no real connection. That's just truly what it is. And Fable, like from that version of the series, has kind of waned in popularity over time. Fable Anniversary is probably the most popular one. Fable and Fable 2.
Fable 2 is good.
I'd love to see it. Fable 2 is fine. I think it's a good game. It's just very easy, and so it loses my attention because it focuses on being a game for everyone instead of being a game for someone. And that clearly worked in its favor, and it's the best-selling Fable game, if I'm not mistaken, as a result of that. But
all right, last question. Project Helix. See it or not see it?
Nope.
All right.
I would, given that we just saw $960 Steam Decks, I don't think anybody talks about hardware this year unless they have to. I still am not sure that Valve is actually going to continue to go through with the Steam machine this year, like they said they would. But maybe, because conversely, $960 Steam Decks sold out immediately.
Yep.
So maybe they'll just go, fuck it. People are going to buy them if they want to buy them anyway.
Yeah, that's kind of the whole thing. People will just buy shit.
So we'll see. The only difference is that Steam Deck, I think, is still doing something in the handheld space that not a lot of the competition is doing. But I will say now, comparing the, what was it called? The Asus ROG Ally Xbox X or whatever the fuck it was called that they came out with, that was like $1,000. That is and it has not price increased at least yet. That is a much, much better deal at like $1,100 or whatever it is now in comparison to the Steam Deck than what it was. Suddenly, the Xbox handheld looks a lot more competitive as a result of that. But
before we hop off, let's. I got one more prediction for you to make to see how happy I will be on Sunday. Fallout remake, remaster, whatever.
I think that this is the time to talk about Fallout 3 Remastered. The only thing that leaves me in the weird state is they might want to replicate the Shadow Drop.
Could you imagine if Fallout 3 Remastered came out on Sunday? I would freak the fuck out.
No, hear me out. They don't announce it this summer. Instead, the day that Grand Theft Auto 6 releases, they shadow drop Fallout 3 Remastered. Dude, I would have mad fucking respect. I would have the most respect for Microsoft.
Yeah, they're like, fuck you. Here's Fallout 3 Remastered. I mean, I would
$40.
It wouldn't matter.
Here's our 18-year-old game. Go fuck yourself.
It would be funny if they did that and they're like, it comes with shark cards for GTA 6.
You know what would be really interesting to see, though? I actually think if they did that, I'm not saying they will. I think if they did that, that game would still sell millions in the first week, and then they'd be able to go like, why the fuck are we all so scared of Grand Theft Auto?
Yeah, someone's got to challenge it. That's the thing. There's an argument that like something like, I don't know, that game that just came out, The Adventures of Elliot, that would do probably better than ever the same week as Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah. Because the
only other game that would be coming out.
People who don't give a shit about Grand Theft Auto are just going to look for something to buy just to vindicate that they don't give a shit about the biggest thing in gaming. You know what I mean? Like it's human psychology almost. You like people are gonna look at it and be like, everybody's so fucking excited about that. Guess what I'm gonna do? Fucking Adventures of Elliot, bitch. Like that's exactly what would happen. And so I am kind of in agreement. And actually I thought wasn't it Devolver Digital that were like, we're moving, like whenever they delayed, they were like, we're delaying our game too. Fuck it. We're gonna I think there is an indie game coming out the same day that they were like, no, we're fucking following. Like we're going to do this. I think it's a great marketing because people are going to want to reward that. They're also going to reward. They want to reward someone being ballsy. Definitely an indie game. They're going to be like, look at this. Fuck, I'll give them $7 even if I'm not going to play it right now.
Oh, that's a cute little guy. That's so cute.
Yeah.
Little tap on the head.
But you know what?
Right,
that's good for them. That's how it works. But yeah, Chris, we'll be back. We'll be back Sunday to see what the Xbox gods bring us and how much of it's coming to PlayStation versus how much of it will I have to pony out for oh wait, never mind. I have a computer, so I can just play it all on
for free.
Yep. All right, guys. If you like the show, first and foremost, thank you for spending all this time with us. Like the video if you're watching on YouTube. Feel free to leave a comment down in the description. Feel free to leave a comment on the video, letting us know what was the game that you were most excited for to be announced here. What was your oh shit moment? Was it Code Veronica like a lot of us? Never thought it happened, but here we are. If you want to support us with more than just your time, which we're super thankful for, thank you. You can head over to patreon.com/Nartech, NARTECH, to give as little as $1 per month, like many of you do, to keep the show going without us having to dig into our own pockets. One of the things we do as a thank you for the people who choose to do so, or shout them out at the end of every single episode. So without further ado, we'd like to thank The Boorish Boar, Grime Kid 1989, FR Damian Quigley, Ryan Goldner, Spencer, Brandon Edwards, Alex, Barry Rogers, Stingray X, Matt Tubbs, Sean Easton, Bailey Robertson, TT Dog 666, Kevin Bacon Bits, Danny Villalobos, Jehudi MD, No Fate, Josh Ayers, Derek Porter, and Sean Santarud. Thanks to each and every one of you. We'll see you next time.